right, if you just joined us, you're still on to Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's have our conversation. The Nigerian House of Representatives rejected a bill to amend the 1999 Constitution to expand the scope of Islamic law.
Sponsored by Ali Musau, the bill proposed removing the word personal in references to Islamic law in sections 24 to 62 to 77 and to 88.
Misal argued that limiting Islamic law to personal matters restricted its application, particularly in commercial areas like Islamic banking.
He cited the example of Jaiz Bank, which operates under Islamic commercial law, and suggested that the amendment would support the growth of Islamic commercial and international law.
And debates divided lawmakers along regional lines, with northern representatives generally supporting the bill, while southern representatives opposed it. Opponents like Solomon Bob argued that removing personal will broaden the application of Islamic law, potentially conflicting with Nigeria's secular principles.
Other critics highlighted past constitutional assemblies where military intervention had restricted Islamic law to personal matters to avoid divisiveness. The bill ultimately failed in a vote led by Deputy Speaker Ben Carlo.
All right, that's our expose. Let's have a conversation. Joining us all the way from Saitama in Japan, John Akirele, a public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, John.
Good morning to our viewers, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much, and welcome to Nigeria. All right, in the studios we have Emeka Madunagu, journalist and public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Emeka.
Good morning, Emeka.
Good morning. Happy weekend. Hello, viewer.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. All right, so let's have a conversation. I'd love to start with you, John. There we have it. Particularly at a point in Nigeria where there are lots of issues, laundry list of matters we should be talking about. Those in the parliament are talking about expanding what they call Islamic rules beyond the personal. What's your take on this?
Well, for me, I think when it comes to the issue of religion, people should be very careful. And for me, I think it is just a misplaced priority on the part of the House of Rep. At a point where Nigerians have multiple and complex issues that they are dealing with. And I would have suggested or hoped that the responsive House of Assembly would have been looking at how they can make laws that can make governance easy, how they can, look at our Electoral Amendment Act and how they can bring about some incumbencies, those things. Nigeria has so many issues, rather than we coming to the point of saying that we should expand our Islamic laws. Now, this will further give, credence to some people who have been saying that there is a plan to Islamization of the country when this agenda are being pushed. Now, looking from your catalog, your intro, it says that the Northern House of Rep members are in support and the South are against. Now, that will also say to you that there is division even in the House of Reps pertaining to this thing. So, for me, I think we should look at it in a holistic way. Nigeria is, is a complex country on its own that has too many complexities. The line of tribe, the line of religion, and so we should not be seen as a people that we are bringing up policies that will tend towards Islamization as tend by some people. But for me, I think there are more issues that the House of Rep and the Senate should look into that will make governance easy, that will reduce the cost of governance, that will enhance the livelihood of Nigerians. After all, even the religion we are talking about, either Islamization or the Christian or those traditionalists, the sole aim of religion is for the advancement of humankind. All right. So in a case where you are bringing up policies that some parts will feel frowned at, and don't forget, in that same aspect, we also have some places where Sharia law is also operating. Yeah. And so Sharia law now cannot work in a secular world. The same thing to this kind of bill. So I think this bill, for me, is not an arrival. And we should look at other people who are doing things in other parts of the world and learn from them rather than going by this parochial way of doing things.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Emeka Madunagu, coming back to you here in the studio. with the example they cited being Jais Bank and the international commercial laws reason why they are looking at the personal in court. Should they say there's something that is about Jais Bank that is actually separating it from other commercial banks that they are not being able to perpetuate? That's why they are looking at changing the law.
You see, thank you very much, Joma. You see, I tell people the best gift you can give to yourself is education, continuous education and information, so that people won't use your brains to fry a car. You know. Now, what am I saying? You see, when people bring forth things, they think some of us are stupid. You're talking about Jais Bank. Well, we here in the South, we're talking about our job. In some places, they call it a susu. They call it susu. You know, which is what? Contribution. Non-interest banking too. Non-interest personal banking, which has been on since before Nigeria's independence. Now, you're talking about Jais Bank that just came in 2012. Now, the fellow who pushed the bill, he said that when the framers of Nigerian Constitution was amended, you know, they envisage that, you know, Islam, that, you know, that there will be certain developments, you know, new developments concerning Islamic finance. And I just say, look, he was just trying to be clever by half. We have had trade by barter in this country. Even up till now, you still have people who engage in trade by barter. Nobody has said we should put trade by barter in the constitution. We have exchange. Nobody has said put exchange in the constitution. We have a susu. Nobody has said put a susu in the constitution. You know, and different types of traditional banking, you know, traditional finance, personal finance. And let me tell you, the law stresses one basic principle: the dignity of man. Because you start from man before you get to men. Then, you know, you start from woman before you get to women. You start from child before you get to children. So those are generic references. Mankind, womankind, humanity. All these things are just expressions. Meaning what? That you see, all of humanity actually has to do with personal issues. So you cannot legislate, for instance, where I should put my money. You can only say, okay, for instance, like in Nigeria, you know, there was a time when you had unregistered money lenders, unregistered, you know, even up till now, there are still people operating legally, you know, collecting money and telling you, okay, in 3 months, if you put down 100,000, in 3 months, you get 3 million and all of that. Those are unregistered and they're illegal. Now, the Securities and Exchange, SEC law in Nigeria says that for you to engage in activities that have to do with direct multiplication of funds, in other words, interest-bearing activities, you must register with SEC and you must show, you know, how you intend to achieve all of this, the kind of business you want to do. Now, when you talk about Islamic banking, it's non-interest banking. What about our job? It's also non-interest banking. So now, Ajo is, you know, in the English language is called thrift. But government, in order to help people, you know, avoid any disorderly activities in the financial sector, right? They now said, okay, form yourselves into cooperative societies to be registered. And government now the state government now set up ministries of cooperatives. So as to show you that, yes, government recognizes the fact that you can collect money, save money, you can lend money, which is the primary purpose of cooperatives, you know, to collect money from members, save for members, and lend. Before you now talk about other auxiliary activities, you know, like owning estate, owning properties, owning things and all of that, investing in different things. So when somebody now says you should remove personal from law, from, you know, Islamic finance, then I ask a question. Then how does it now have to do with humanity? You're not dealing with robots. You're not dealing with inanimate objects. You're dealing with personal issues. That's why it has to do with personal finance. One man earns money and goes to a bar, decides to take some bottles. Another man earns money and heads to his corporate society, and you know, from his phone, he transfers money to his corporate society. Please save this money for me. You know, and all of that. All these things have to do with personal choices. And I want to tell you that the Giant Bank he mentioned, you also have the Lotus, investment portfolio. It is not only Muslims that patronize this organization. There are also Christians. There are also animists, adherents of traditional religion who patronize these institutions because their principles, because their products appeal to them. So let government stop this. We are not in a communist state. Let government stop this idea of attempting to abridge the rights of people by interfering in their personal businesses. What we should do is rather expand the economic space, expand it so that there are so many opportunities for people to express their creative abilities, use their money, to make life better for them. So when we don't have to bring religion into things, people can think better. And that way, society will prosper better. Let me tell you, sorry, to just quickly add on to it. Do you know there are some Western nations that pay church tax, what they call church tax? People prefer, to pay tax to government so that government can give grants to their churches. People don't know these things, but I did research on it. Church tax, there are nations that pay some taxes. So when you now try to drag religion into everything, what you are trying to do is that you are trying to take over the thinking, creative abilities of the people, and then now make government think for them. And well, that is not right.
Thank you, Mika Magnago. Thank you. John Akerele, shortly to just add this question to you. In a sitting country where we have other pressing issue, and our National Assembly is coming to look at this, should I call them trivial issues, over they're leaving the major and minoring on the minor. Don't you think that if we reduce the time or how many times they get to sit in a year, they would get to meet together and pick up important issues to come talk about? Maybe they have a lot of time.
I think that is not the issue. The issue you are seeing now, I've shown you the state of Nigeria as a whole.
Yes.
The frivolous act of our leaders. That's what you are seeing also in the House of Rep. When they are burning issues, they know that there are some issues that you should prioritize. The same way the executive, have over-bloated budgets, have frivolous spending that are not sensitive to the plight of the Nigerian people. The same thing is happening to the National Assembly. You have the Electoral Act there. 2023 election has so many angers on its head. And people have been saying that Electoral Act needs to be looked into. They did not sit down to look at such issues. This same house is here. We are looking at issue of emergency, issue of flood management, disaster management. They have not looked at some of the loopholes in the law that can help us, make life better for Nigerian people. Do you understand? There are so many issues that they have there that they can work on to make sure that these things, help make life easy for an average Nigerian. So for me, you have seen that like a drastic attitude of not taking the important things that matter, rather playing on frivolities, things that does not really make economic sense, that does not affect the lives and generality of totality of Nigerian people. And that's the same attitude we have seen in the House of Rep. And that will show you that when we cry on platforms like this, I will say to Nigerians, you can see the caliber of people who are your leaders, not only from the presidency to the governors, even to the House of Assembly. You have seen it. Now, if they put it into part-time sitting, that does not mean that they must bring these frivolous bills that they are bringing. What we should even come for, therefore, is that the people that are coming into this house, let's ask them, you have been in the House of Rep for 4 years. Can you show us how many bills you've sponsored? And what is the impact of those bills on your own constituency? Until Nigerians start asking their House of Rep members these questions, and that will determine when they will come back. But you know one thing, this present House of Rep that I'm looking at are not ready to take up some serious issues. For example, the Electoral Amendment Act. Why? Because that is a process by which they were elected. And that process is not free, is not credible, and is not fair. And so they know if they put in, such amendment to make that we have a credible process of election, they will not be in office in the first place. Do you understand? And so they will not want to do that. So the point is, we tell all of our leaders to wake up to the responsibility of their positions, wake up to the responsibility of their posts that they are holding, and that the Nigerian people matter most. And so they should bring up policies, laws. You know, in a country where I am now, by tomorrow we are having an election here in Japan. And then you need to see the candidate talk. You need to see them, their policy-based campaigns. What they will do for the Japanese people. And so when I look at this country and I look at my own country, I shake head at the kind of leaders that we're having. So even if it's part-time, that for me also is a welcome development. Why? Because as a politician, you should have a job that you do. You should have a job that you do. And so when you come to sit, you have a part-time sitting, you look at some topical issues. As we stand now, what are the people of Nigeria crying about? They are crying about hunger. They are crying about insecurity. They are crying about unemployment. Now, can this house now say, what about the security votes of our governors? How has it enhanced the security state of each state? And so, what can we as a House of Rep member do to amend some of these laws to take out the loopholes so we can have smooth, system of governance for our people? We can have good governance for the people. They will not do that. The idea of doing rubbish clamoring about the Islamic law and how to expand Islamic law. The one that they have been operating, what is the economic importance of Nigerian people? These are the questions we should ask. And until we get to that point where we ask critical questions, that, there are people who know that we are serious. But for now, for me, that was there, it's just a joke.
All right, Emeka, let's maybe take this to another perspective and vantage point. With 20 million, over 20 million out of school children, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, there we have leaders who are not very conscious of those things, but are looking at other areas that are not necessarily of interest. How do we gauge these with respect to a leadership dexterity and efficiency in Nigeria? Should we blame our electoral system who brought in wrong people to prominent positions, or is it a factor of individuals who have suddenly changed from who they were before?
Well, I'll just, thank you. I'll just like to say that our democracy is still evolving, just about 25 years.
Does it really matter?
Yeah, it does.
Is time a factor?
No, it does. It does. Well, it does. One, why do I say it does? Because you need to ask yourself, if we have weaned ourselves of certain practices, of certain things, because we look at even South Africa, that, established majority rule in 1996. How far have they gone? Even the United States still has to do with certain fundamental issues, certain basic issues. Even after, can you imagine someone somebody who has been convicted cannot look for a job in the United States, but can run for public office? Just look at that. Look at that contradiction. But that is one of the things. That's one of the things that they will need to look at when they have to do another review of the U.S. Constitution. Now, wait a minute. How did we overlook this?
Or issues of gun control and all.
Yes, and all of those things. Look at it in Nigeria. Somebody with a primary 6 certificate and 10 years of experience can run for any office. These are some of the things we need to deal with, because our thinking is still at the basic level. And when people are at the basic level of survival, what will I eat? Every day, what will I eat? It has a way of beclouding their judgment. It also affects the leaders. Because you know what? When you see pensioners out there on the streets fighting and crying over their due entitlements, and you are still in service, you want to say, wait a minute, how can I cut corners? How can I cut my age to make sure that I don't end up on the street like these pensioners? We've been seeing these things over the years, and yet these things keep, recurring. Why? Because we have not allowed our thinking to become more sophisticated. 2, what's the caliber of people we put into office? Have we cared about the caliber of people put in the office, particularly the National Assembly? We look so much at the presidential, at who becomes government. We don't look at those who are going to the National Assembly, those who are going to State House. And that's why I also say that we need a unicameral legislature, not a Senate and House of Reps. We need just a combination. Why? many people, I believe that many people in the National Assembly have no business being there. They have no business being there. So they cannot approximate, thinking that deals with issues that are germane to the needs of Nigerians. Then look at it again. Somebody is talking about Islamic finance, doing XYZ, to make sure to remove personal. Then I ask a question. You have your UBEC, Universal Basic Education, now it's supposed to be funded by federal and state government. How many states have been paying their counterpart funding? You have the Child Rights Act that outlines the rights of children. How many states in Nigeria have actually domesticated the Child Rights Act and are actually, doing, enunciating policies that have to do with rights, child rights, maternal rights. He's talking about removing personal rights. Okay, let me even play the devil's advocate. Okay, when you remove personal, what you're saying is that government should have a greater involvement in the lives of individuals. Then why do we have our marginaries on the streets? Why do we have 20 million children out of school? Why do we still have high maternal mortality rates? Why do we still have high rate of youth unemployment? Why do we have banditry? Why do we have insurgency? Why? Because the very people who are supposed to make laws, enunciate policies that should make, that should say, okay, government ought to create cushions, safety nets to help the weak and the vulnerable in society. They are not thinking about that. People who are earning 22 million naira a month, or some that they collect, they don't earn it. Tell me the work they put in. One of them was saying the other day that they spent 14 million naira on petrol. At the expense of Nigerian people. Tell me, people who do not earn the money they collect every month, 22 million naira every month. If you remove the money these people earn every month, even when they're not sitting, do you know, like John said, these people, ought to be on part-time. Why? Because, do you know the funny thing? They are supposed to sit for just 141 days out of 365 days, in a year. But do you know what? Even when they're on break, they still earn the money. Why? Why? They earn over 2 billion. The country shares out over 2 billion naira.
Thank you.
Every month on them. Why?
Thank you, Mika.
Why? That's why they won't think in ways that will help this country.
Thank you, Mika. We lost John Akarele there. At this point, we'll just have to call it a wrap. Emeka Madnago, before we go, can we just get your parting shot in 60 seconds, please?
Well, what I'll say is this. The members of the National Assembly should concern themselves with issues that have to do with lifting up the state of the Nigerian people. There's hunger everywhere. It's not because Nigerians are lazy, like it's erroneously believed. It's not because Nigerians are illiterate, like one, governor was saying, calling his people illiterates. It's not because of that. It is because government is, government works against development in this country. The laws, the policies, a lot of obsolete laws, a lot of laws that are anti-business, anti-competition, a lot of laws that inhibit the productive and creative capacities of Nigerians. These laws must be dropped. And any attempt for people to draw us into the era of communism and socialism in Nigeria will be resisted. We don't want that. Nigeria is a secular state.
Thank you.
And must remain so.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Nigeria is a secular state and must remain so. And that's just about the size of our package today. We'd love to say thank you to you, Emeka Madnago, for being part of our show today.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate it. Choma, thank you as always.
Thank you. And thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. Unfortunately, we lost you as a result of technical issues there. But that's just about the time we have for our show today, Enterprise Weekend. We'd love to say thank you to you for spending that time and being part of our show today. But please do well to visit us when you want to. You can always find and reach us at enterprise.tvnews.com. You may like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise 07. I am Henry Igwebike.
And I'm Choma Okoye.
On behalf of the Backroom Boys, we'll see you next weekend on another great time on Enterprise Weekend. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.